Press the bell icon on YouTube and don't miss another update.
Namaste, and welcome to this 7 p.m. show in Jaipur today. And I have a very different subject today. I think you have been watching a lot of different kind of stuff here, and now we have something that is of great importance to our nation. And that is that a lot of time we have been wondering why DRDO does not deliver, especially why doesn't it deliver on time. And almost everything that DRDO is doing, it is having time overruns, it is having cost overruns, and a lot of other issues are there. Whereas we, at the same time, we look at ISRO and we see that it's doing a fantastic job. So today I introduce you to Dr. M.R. Sheshadri. Namaste, Dr. Sheshadri.
Namaskar.
Dr. Sheshadri worked in DRDO, then he took an early retirement and he started his own venture. And through his own venture, he has been working with the DRDO. So, Dr. Sheshadri, would you like to say something about your tenure in DRDO?
Yeah, before that, I thought I will just mention about, what are my credentials to make this, to come to your forum. First of all, thank you, Mr. Sanjay, for asking me to join this, giving this opportunity to share my experience in DRDO. Well, I just will start with my background. I did my BSc in '64 and joined CIL, a defense quality assurance service company organization, and did my honors and MSc during working in CIL because I could not leave the job due to the financial problems with the house of the family. So I I could not have left the job, but at the same time, there were no evening colleges and distant education those days, and therefore I had to leave the job, but that was not an option. So I thought of an option. I knew in CIL there were 2 labs which were working 24/7. So I asked my boss to transfer me to that lab. And he did that and it was very great help. And in fact, it started with daytime college and nighttime work. For 3 years I did, completed my MSc, BSc honors and MSc. And PhD I did during 1982 when I was working in ADE. So what is my experience to come to this forum is as I said, I had worked in CIL for 5.5 years, working on quality assurance service of electronic components. And then in between 1970 to 1993, I was with ADE DRDO, where I was a senior scientist and responsible for developing several products there. So at tenure at ADE, I must say that DRDO is one of the best places. Sorry?
ADE? What is ADE?
ADE is Aeronautical Development Establishment under DRDO.
Right.
Yeah. So one of the best places to work is DRDO, because, especially ADE, because you are working on a cutting edge technologies and carrying out R&D. And if one wants to learn, one can learn a lot. Okay. And I worked on various projects, including the missile target, as we call it. That is a unmanned target for missiles, and LCA, electro-optic systems, etc. I don't go to the details there. But one important thing was that I was the secretary for what is known as the DRDO Systems Panel, which funds the many projects to IITs and Institute of Science. So I was the secretary, and that gave me a broad picture of what is going on in the country in the subjects I was referring to. After 25 years, I thought 23 years of service in DRDO, I had made several observations. One of the observations was generally the number of people who are hardworking and to the project is only 20%. Other 80% are passengers. It is a sad thing, but it is truth. Scientists are normally lethargic and not motivated. These are the other problems I found out. The staff, that is, a scientist and scientists and engineers, were dedicated to the boss, not to the projects. And then these things forced me to think that I should start on my own and do as good as or even better than DRDO. So I took voluntary retirement in '93 and then started the company called Deepti Electronics and Electro-Optics. Obviously, the emphasis is on electronics and electro-optics because I had spent a lot of time on that and I learned a lot in DRDO. And the first thing was, how do we get the money? Funds is the first thing. So I estimated about 35 lakhs was required for 1.5 to 2 years. And therefore, I thought I didn't have that sort of money. So I just went to a private company where at that time it was on the electro-optics by optical fibers and electro-optics. And optical fibers, it was just booming time in 1990s. It was a booming time, and I learned a lot of things about optoelectronics, optical fibers, and then worked for 4 years and earned some money and saved some 30 lakhs. And that was the seed for my DRDO, for my enterprise. I founded initially a partnership company between me and my wife called the Deepti Research Group, who was doing the electronics and electro-optics work actually. And when we grew up a bit, then when I decided to become private limited because the money requirement and the bank support was required, and therefore I went for private limited company. And then for any business, it is a four-legged animal, as I call it. One is a technology, finance, HR, and customers and marketing. These are the four legs actually. So it is a very, very important thing to keep the balance among all the 3-4 items. And then next thing was to see what is that I want to do. I wanted to do design, develop, and produce for defense. That was the thing, because once you work in DRDO for so many years, you have always want to do indigenous things for defense. So that's what I did, and there were several options to do, but then I chose the option of outsourcing. I knew that DRDO outsources a lot of work, and I thought that is the best way to do, because if you have to enter defense, either you have to enter directly. If you enter directly, then you need to make the products of your own, depending on what defense wants, and then try to get it approved, and then try to wait for the bulk supplies. But then I thought technology is very important in the lab, so I built the technology initially. The only way is to go for outsourced work from DRDO. That's what I did. And then we did several projects, almost 200 projects we did from past 20 years. And then some of them become, whatever DRDO takes as the projects. Some of them become become regular supplies to the defense. It's unfortunate that only 7 to 8% projects which the DRDO takes up will be matured into defense establishment. So, in fact, we are lucky to have about another, because of the hard working of our own people, about 10 projects which are 10 products which go into the defense today. In fact, one of the things, the most important thing is we have worked on all the three thing: Army, Navy, and Air Force. We have worked on, and well, for example, for LCA, we have 4 items which go into the LCA aircraft, which has gone through the severe qualification approvals and then actual flights, etc. In fact, one of the things is the USCP, as we call it, that is the upfront control panel, which is the interface between the pilot and the rest of the display surfaces. In fact, LCA won't even start without our system there. So we have supplied something like 100 systems. We're expecting more orders due to the latest additions in the Air Force, purchase order to the HALs actually. Almost 5,000 sorties have been done so far, and not even once our systems have failed. So that is the sort of a quality assurance we give. And similarly, we have DIO cards, that digital IO cards, and the cockpit warning systems and actuator test systems. The actuator test systems basically is, the LCA has 4 actuators. That is the brakes, then the rudders and then the landing gears, etc. So those has to be tested even before it is fitted to the aircraft, and in situ with the aircraft also it can be tested. So we made such a systems which can do the tests actually on go no go type of work, or detailed tests actually. Similarly, on the Navy, we made the modems, communication modems, which we have supplied almost 4,000 systems, 4,000, 5,000 systems we have supplied.
You want to come in?
Yeah.
See, I don't think we should be discussing the details of the components, because I think
okay,
that's okay. We understand your credentials. No need to discuss all the details of all the components.
Sorry.
So you were mentioning that DRDO has a lot of problems, and we're comparing it with ISRO. And I was discussing with you, then you talked about the work ethic and the systems in ISRO as compared to the work ethics and the systems in DRDO. And why we are talking today is because maybe we want our top policymakers to know that DRDO, though it is doing a very good job, but if it works as well as ISRO does, then it could probably become one of the best functioning institutions, and could probably contribute 2 times, 3 times, or even 4, 5 times the contribution that it is making right now. Because right now we find that it is actually lagging in almost all timely supplies, considerable time overruns, and considerable cost overruns. And because it happens to be a government institution, so all those are actually overlooked. So let us concentrate on that aspect.
Sure. You see, mostly I'll just tell the problems now. Problems with which can be improved in DRDO. For example, most of the projects are R&D types. R&D outsourced projects are R&D types, and things R&D and fixed cost, fixed time cannot go together, because R&D by nature can extend. In addition to that, the normally company loses almost 20% to 100% money in each of those projects actually. Cycle times of the projects are very long. In case, in fact, it can take 1.5 to 2 hours, 2 years, or 2.5 years also sometimes. This is because this is from RFQ, that is the request for quotations, to the final delivery. It may take about 2 years. But then what is the problem? The problem is the lack of technical evaluation by scientists many times. I'm not telling 100%, but at least majority of the times it is not, the problems are not properly, only at the top level, and the specifications evolve along when the execution of project starts actually. So this is a problem, this has to be plugged in. And payments, of course, to the companies are very slow. In fact, at certain times, the paper needs about 20 signatures. So anywhere between 90 to 120 days, it will take before even money is realized. But then this can definitely be improved. And for example, in comparison, for a foreign company, they pay in advance actually. All the money is paid in advance. And of course, there are.
This is so much for Atmanirbharta. So they are not paying in advance to the Indian companies, but they're paying in advance to the foreign companies. That's really strange.
That is strange. Of course, and there is all said and done. I'm sorry to say that there is corruption in the DRDO, which needs to be plugged. And then other most important thing is the IPs. The intellectual property is not shared with the company at all. This has to be changed. This demotivates the companies and the people who are working on it. In fact, there are cases where people have not only got promotion, but national and international publications wherein they don't even thank the company actually. So these are the things which demotivates the companies actually. So what is the way forward? So compared to this way, of course, in the government of India is trying their best to make it self-reliant, defense equipment self-reliant, reliant in designing and producing defense outputs. In fact, the DRDO itself was started in 1958 with 10 labs, and today we have about 52 labs actually. And there are a lot of overlap of work going on in various laboratories, and therefore there is there is a lot of confusion between one lab to the other lab, and priorities are not fixed, and therefore ultimately the project suffers both in time and this one. In fact, Kalamji started, in fact, DRDO, in fact, Government of India invested a lot of money in the IG, there is Integrated Guided Missile Program, which includes Prithvi, Akash, Trishul, Nag, and Agni, which was somewhat, 80% success. So because although it the time overshot was there, money was short there, but then ultimately we have the items. Similarly, LCA program, the first meeting I attended was 1984. And even 84. And even today, it is not fully operational. But then there are reasons for it. Although dedicated workers were there, there was money crunch, and there was sanctions from government, sanctions from America, etc. And then there were light combat helicopter, same issue. Main battle tank, Arjun tank, for which we are making certain products, automatic target tracking products, is waiting. We are waiting since 10 years for that to get the orders actually. Even that, I believe the end users are telling it's too heavy. So this is one of the reasons why it is not there. But then money was poured in for developing such platforms really. In fact, they changed the definition. In fact, during Dr. Kalam's time, they changed the definition of the Atmanirbhar, in the sense that it said self-reliance can also be by co-development policy. That means one of the examples is BrahMos. BrahMos things where Russian and Indian scientists work together and engineers work together to make it success. That's a good success. Of course, Make in India or the policy of offset was totally. I don't think it is a great success. It is somewhat a failure only. And therefore, looking into that, they in 1916 they brought out.
Can I interrupt you? Yeah. Why was this offset policy brought in at all? Because when you go back to it, it really sometimes, at least for me, it's quite intriguing. Why was it brought in the first place?
Okay, they wanted to make in India. Make in India means it can be TOT from outside. So TOT, normally the foreign companies, when they come, big companies come, they look for the production facilities in the lab, in the companies. They were not willing to give the designs. Although TOT was in paper, but it was not really done. And offset policy ultimately ended up in giving only some mechanical covers, mechanical boxes, and things like that. Or they would give all the details of the PCBs, etc., and then we used to do the assembly and then sell it. So they were not confident. The companies outside were not confident of giving the design work. That is one reason. The other reason is the government thought that we were going to make a lot more investments into the country, but it was only 49% was allowed at that time. So that was the reason for failure of offsets.
Okay.
It has not ignited any ambitions or this one. Yeah.
Okay. When I was discussing with you before the program, then I think one of the major reasons that you mentioned was the way the contracts are handed out, and that especially the L1 problem, which you said
L1
that
problem
doesn't
is
ISRO. So how does ISRO differ in the evaluation or price discovery mechanism from DRDO?
well, ISRO is an autonomous body, and there the professionals lead the programs, not the bureaucrats. So they kept the bureaucrats away. That is one point. In DRDO, the finance people have the highest power than anybody else, and they don't understand the technology. Here, it is the management is totally done by the professionals, and therefore ISRO goes professionally. And second thing is, they technically evaluate and take the technical inputs as well as the L1. So when L1 is there, they don't give it to only L1, only one person. They will give it to more than one companies they give. When they give it to two companies, whoever wins, then they get the bulk order. In fact, bulk orders in the ISRO is small, but still it's a high value, and therefore it is not given to one person. Like even in DRDO purchase committee of the latest one, which has come as 2020, it is said that even in 2020, the lowest priced person will get the lowest person will get the L1 gets the order. But then what it says is if L1 fails, then L2 will get the project. That means after 2 years, 3 years, which is too not so interesting really, and time is lost and money is lost actually. That is one major reason. And then the scientists and engineers are highly motivated. The motivation is because they allow youngsters and during the design stage to discuss and finalize the specification. When the RFQ or the request or quotation comes out from ISRO, it is more or less specifications are complete. It is not that the specification evolves during the execution of the project. And then other thing is ISRO is directly under Prime Minister, and therefore the funding is not an issue there. Here for funds, there are DRDO people wait for years together for the project to get sanctioned. And there is what is known as the ABCD formula in ISRO. Autonomy is one important thing. B is the bureaucracy. As I said, they keep it outside, and the headquarters is not in Delhi. Therefore, politicians and others have no say there. And fortunately for not only space, I think it is true for Atomic Energy Commission also. It is also separate. It's saying in Delhi. Only exception is probably the SEBI and the RBI. But I was told that RBI is also now under government's directions, so politicians' directions. So this is another thing. And the D is the ABC. C is the collaboration between various groups. Actually, they all have to. There's something at stake for the ISRO people, ISRO scientists. The stake being the name not only in India but outside India, which makes them highly motivated, and therefore the groups work together to see that the product comes out actually. Compared to what happens in DRDO. DRDO sometimes they fight between organization and organization. There is a fight who should do what. And D is the democracy. Democracy means the exchange of technical matters is totally open. And the junior engineers or design engineers can come out with ideas and come out with the arguments to see that the designs becomes very, very strong actually. So these are some of the ABCD areas which makes ISRO a different thing. Therefore, the people are motivated, and there is no problem of funding. Yeah.
Yeah. So Adik, you need to explain this contract award system in a more elaborate manner, especially in ISRO, because I believe they don't go by L1, but they go by a certain band that they have prescribed. Whereas because of the finance bureaucracy in DRDO, they stick to L1 so strictly that they often select substandard products which actually cannot be fulfilled, and that results in great delays, because you discover after 2 years or 3 years that the person who had bid L1 was actually not technically competent. How does that work differently in these two organizations?
Well, you rightly said that the in DRDO L1 is the criteria. In fact, we have seen in some of the quotations which they get. In fact, one company, I think I don't have to name the company. They quoted 1 rupee for a project of 6 crores and got the project. And the scientists, that's where the scientists should find out what is at least the material cost should be there and the workman cost be there, that they will not see. L1, they granted the granted the project to them. Unlike in ISRO, as you rightly said, they have a band and they can go up to plus minus 10% in costs, higher costs. In fact, if the technical people are very strong, they even go to L2, L3, they don't care. As long as the specifications are, they get the best specifications. In fact, DRDO, the other problem is the minimum specification is what they specify, not the maximum specification. In ISRO, it is the best specification, best technology, best specification is what is offered there. Therefore, they can overrule the L1 rule and go to the higher cost. Therefore, they get the correct price and they do a thorough job. of inspecting the laboratories, inspecting the companies. They go, they have any number of discussions in order to make sure that they can supply the item. So these are the major issues actually with these things. Even if it is L1 is somebody, but normal bought out items like a computer, etc., they go for L1. Other things, specialized items for the space applications, they go for the best specifications, need not be L1. Did I answer your question?
Yes, I think that's something very important, and that's what I've seen also because I've worked in the government sector for such a long time, and that is where all the malpractices come in. The L1 malpractice is probably one of the most degrading malpractice that is there in the government sector, and that
Yeah,
happens
yeah.
because there isn't enough due diligence on qualifying people properly. So all the hanky-panky takes
Exactly.
place at the level of qualifying technical qualification, and almost whether people have the requisite competence or not, they get qualified, and after that they outbid the good
Yeah,
companies.
yeah.
They
And
outbid the
also,
good companies, and then they are not able to supply also. Because
mm,
in many fields, I've seen that.
yeah,
I
yeah.
have an
And in
example
fact,
of government medicine manufacturing companies where the companies that get qualified, they supply the kind of medicine that no private doctor would ever use in his hospital, ever.
God, my God.
And they are priced sometimes even as low as 1/10 of
Yeah, I think I lost you. Yeah, the other thing is, of course,
medicines,
the
generic
yeah,
medicines.
yeah.
Anybody can start supplying the generic goods. So this is a great problem in the entire government sector, and it is unfortunate that this kind of problem extends to a premium institute like DRDO. And since
Much.
we are talking of DRDO and you have been in the ADE, let's talk about HAL also a little bit. How does
HAL,
HAL
there is
execute
a
the
HAL is
DRDO
a
project?
product. Yeah, HAL is a production agency. So you see as you may know, they build a print sort of a thing. So they get the design, everything from bolt nuts to electronic circuits as well as the software from the development company, design and development company like ADA organization, and they do build to print. And HAL is in HAL they take advanced actions as far as production is concerned. For example, LCA, for all the 84 aircrafts which they require now, they already started getting for the full all the 84, although their capability is only 16 per year. So they take action. I think HAL is fine. The best of the DPSUs are Bharat Electronics and probably BDL. All other things are a little delay. HAL comes number 3 actually. So in that way, but then there is no. I must say that there is no corruption there. Not much of corruption is there in that thing. My main feeling is in DRDO they must remove this fixed cost, fixed time for R&D projects. This is the major thing. Unlike in ISRO where they do a thorough job, here it is a half-cooked job, and then you fix the time, fix the cost, and then they want it yesterday. So DRDO wants it yesterday, and that cannot happen actually. Obviously, there will be time overrun and cost overrun types of things actually. Yeah. In fact,
Okay.
DRDO 2020 says that potential business for the MSMEs and micro mini. This one is 25,000 crores per annum. That is the estimate. But then look at the type of projects they want to outsource. It is, for example, um, for example, the fuses, the electronic fuses for missiles. That is a specialized item, and from past 10 years, DRDO lab is trying to do, and nothing has happened. And look at the Kaveri engine again. We don't have an engine even today. We buy it from General Electric even today. So it is the motivation, and it is the commitment of people to the projects and not to the bosses. This I feel is the major. In fact, I told my boss at that time that if you you have to be number one if you have to show something, and I know you are not going to leave your chair. Therefore, I will leave. That's what I told him.
That's interesting. Now let's discuss something that is being talked about. That of course they do a lot of outsourcing, but what if this basic work that DRDO is performing, and suppose this were to be performed by the private sector as it happens in the West, then how do you think the things will pan out?
It will pan out very well. In fact, private companies will be motivated to do that. In fact, slowly, big companies have started doing it, integration of the total systems, and they do the outsourcing to the other smaller companies. And DRDO at best is an integrator. It is no specific R&D is going on. So they're supposed to do it. If they give it to the private companies, I think it will work better. In fact, in time and this one. But then they need to streamline the payments and etc. Of course, the DPM 2020 says 40% advance can be given, but I don't know till as Ramayana was there in Brahmaloka, it has to come down to ground, so it takes time.
One more, you say that if the private sector is involved, it will probably be better, and private sector taking the integrative functions which DRDO mostly performs would make things better. But then what about this, what is called this bogey of security that is often touted as the reason that that DRDO will always be preferred?
You see, it is only, as you rightly said, it's a bogey, and everything is available in the open literature. Most of the things what DRDO does is available in the open literature. For example, even the communication systems, one can imagine, except for the cyber things where it is their secret codes, etc. All other things are specific, especially aerodynamics, or if it is control systems or electro-optic systems. Everything is available in open. This one, there is nothing secret. The secrecy in communication is only the frequencies and how they do it, how they modulate it, and the rest of it is all. I think it is the mind and the hard work of people which require, and not the security bogey. In fact, there is I mean, I don't think there is anything secret about it. I mean, they should give it to private limited. Of course, there is a lot of restrictions, as they always put it as confidential, and then private people do it in fact, we do it all the time. So we do it all the time, keeping it secret, whatever they given, whatever data they had given, we keep it secret. I don't think there is a problem of giving it to the private companies.
Okay, yeah, they must be having their standard protocols. Of course, you look at the United States.
Yeah.
There isn't a single government company that does it.
Yeah.
Everything is done by private companies, and everything is kept top secret, and the secrecy has never been breached. So I think the similar things can be done here. One more question before we move to the audience questions, and I request the audience to please start shooting your questions, because after this question we'll be going to the audience question. And
Sure.
of course, I have to request you to please like this video and share it, of course, as much as you can all around. And also subscribe to the channel. And of course, please continue with your support. So the last question that I ask, okay, what is the level of customer satisfaction? Because mostly your customers are the Army, Air Force, and the Navy. These
Yeah.
are the DRDO's main customers. And one keeps reading all the time that the customer satisfaction is very low. And that is one of the reasons that they prefer to import. So what's your
Well,
idea?
my own assessment is, as far as my experience goes, it is anywhere between 70 to 80%. What they 70 to 80%. What they want is an immediate support to whatever happens. You see, failure is nothing is perfect actually. Although although our systems are working fine, but then there could be some problems, and it is the question of within 24 hours or 48 hours you attend to that, and they will be happy. That may be lacking. That may be one lacking, and then of course the defense itself. That has become a habit to say that they are not happy. So, in fact, I can mention our thermal imager, which is 350 systems are lying in J&K. J&K, just because a small change is required in certain things. Actually. So they are not giving the clearance. And then we are ready to give the substitute part, which they are not prepared to take it now, and it's lying since 1.5 years. So it is the attitudes also counts, and then of course they are used to this import systems. I know in thermal imager itself there are 500 thermal imagers imported from somewhere, are lying waste in Northern Command.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't know whether I revealed a secret, but
No, these things are all there in the openly being talked about. There's nothing secret about it. And I think Navy is the only one which has pushed for indigenization very aggressively.
yes.
Otherwise, I think even LCA could see the light of the day only because of Mr. Parikkar. Otherwise,
Yes.
they were dragging their feet all the time. And I think a lot of responsibility for degradation of the squadrons from the authorized 42 to present 30 or less than 30 is on the Indian Air Force itself. But it doesn't get the mention at all. Everybody else gets the blame. The government gets the blame. The finance ministry gets the blame. But the Indian Air Force, it kinds of just washes its hands off. Whereas if they had pushed for indigenization the way the Indian Navy did, then we wouldn't be in this sorry pass.
That's right. Yes, Indian Navy is number one among the three services. In fact, we have supplied at, and that is there at every. The one difference is not only they take big projects, they also take smaller ones which can substitute the imported systems. That is one nice thing the Navy does, and always step-by-step approach is there. And of course, big projects are there like Arihant and others, but then smaller projects are also useful actually, which Army and Navy, Army and Air Force are a little lagging actually in this.
Yes, like kind of dragging the feet that happened in the Arjun business. That also is big problem. Anyway,
Yeah.
now let's move to the audience questions and answers.
Press the bell icon on YouTube and don't miss another update.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll read out the questions that you can answer. Okay, sir, despite years and all the claims of Uttam radar, we are still importing radars. Why is DRDO not able to match Israel or France? Is our talent pool at fault?
I am not the right person to talk on Uttam radar really. So I cannot say, but generally it is um, uh, because of such a project was not sanctioned. In fact, LRD is doing a lot of work on that. Bell and LRD together, they are doing a lot of work on radars, especially on the over the horizon radars, etc. So I'm not with them radar. I'm not very familiar with it. Sorry.
Okay, next question. Rahul Kumar.
When Indian
Why
ISRO.
Indian ISRO and DRDO scientists get killed? More than 100 scientists were killed till now. Why all cases lead to natural death or suicide?
I don't know whether I can answer this question at all again. Why did ISRO and DRDO scientists got killed? I don't know what he's referring to really. Is it because of, yeah?
This is not a question directly related to the topic, so I'll pass it over.
Yeah.
Okay, Rafael Gripen Eurofighter, they started 25, 30 years ago. Their platforms are established, and we are still at Mark 1 with Tejas. Why do we struggle so much?
No, indigenization. Indigenization is a must, and mix are being grounded, and we need something. And indigenous thing is always better, even if it is a Mark 1, Mark 2, Mark 1A, whatever. So that is better. And in addition to that, of course, you can always have graphenes or whatever, all imported things. It has to be a mix of import and our own indigenous. Ultimately, in case there is a problem and sanctions, then what we do? We need to have our own. Yeah.
Okay. Abhinav Kulkarni, thank you for the enlightening talk. How can institutes like DRDO, ISRO, etc., work together with academic institutions like IIT or Indian Institute of Science? Do academic institutions like IITs also suffer from the same problems?
Well, the approaches, as I mentioned, the ISRO approach is quite different from DRDO approach. Although DRDO gives a lot of projects to IITs and Institute of Science, um, the commitments are less, and that is the reason. And then the people who drive the projects are also different, and the management is different. Total management. The point is the bureaucracy comes in the way all the time in DRDO. ISRO is not is managed by professionals, and therefore the results are better. But definitely they take the help of these people, and then you see the international papers. The with all the IITs and all that, the level is much lower than what is expected for such work.
Right. Next question. Atul Nanda, why can't DRDO be completely hived off to a 100% Indian private company to manage with tight security and controls?
It can only be partial. It cannot be 100% private because private companies, all said and done, are balance sheet oriented, and they may create havoc. So it is always better to have a control, Indian government control over the privates.
Right. Of course, we can always have a situation where 26%
Yeah.
stake with the government and the rest 74% by private companies, so that the government is involved in policy decisions and other sensitive matters.
Yeah.
But then
That's
the
right.
management is with the private company. I think that kind of a model can work.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that model can work. Yes.
Next question. Reasons for failure of Chandrayaan-2. That's not really related to DRDO.
But well, it is such a complicated control system problem, and the environment which is unknown. And I'm sure they would have done a thorough simulation job and then found out about it. And why failure means even American Apollo systems have failed actually many times.
Yes. Next. Mandar Kahani, breaking up of DRDO into corporations with industry linkages and facilitating competition. Is this a possible solution?
Maybe it's a solution, but then control must be there with the government. Some control must be there with the government. Otherwise, it'll lead to some sort of with all the money-mindedness, it becomes difficult.
Right. Next one. Possibility of an Indian Spacex in the future.
Could be. We don't know. It's a futuristic question. Could be. Why not? Yeah. Money is there, but with private people, we should do it. I think Ambanis can do it, in fact, if they want to.
Next. Chaitanya, does India have hydrogen bombs?
I won't be able to say that. Even if I knew, I won't say that. Yeah.
Correct. Absolutely. Next. That's all we have in this edition. Thank you so much, Dr. Sheshadri, for enlightening our viewers and bringing to the fore a subject which is often kept under the closet, and people are not just wary of talking about it, they actually don't even know much about it. So we have this inside information from you. And actually, I can sum it up by saying that DRDO suffers from the same bureaucracy, which I have witnessed at very close quarters for over 35 years. And if you have that kind of bureaucracy, then God forbid, DRDO cannot really make much headway. And as you said, the most debilitating thing that any organization can have is to give the upper hand to the financial bureaucrats.
Yes.
One more question has come in the meantime. Says, how much does DRDO support academia currently? My father guided 6 PhDs on metal fatigue in the 80s using ADE funding.
Yeah. How much does DRDO support academia? There are about 8 panels in DRDO. Each one has about 4 to 6 crores at that time. I was talking of 1990s, 80s and 90s, 80s actually. So I'm sure, and I don't know whether the levels have, probably you can multiply it by 2 and then that will be the level of support to academia. But then the projects itself are not of very high quality. Getting PhD is something else actually. Congratulations if your father has produced 6 PhDs. and metal fitting. I'm sure they would have used the results of those findings. Actually, did I answer him?
Okay.
I don't know.
Yes, that's fine. With that, we bring this conversation to a close. Thank you very much, Dr. Sheshadri, for bringing to light such, what should I say, a closely guarded topic, not exactly closely guarded secrets, but certainly a topic on which people neither know very much nor are they willing to talk. So thank you so much. Jai Hind,
We must.
Vande Mataram.
Okay, Vande Mataram, and I must thank you for giving me an opportunity to share my experiences. I hope if it is of some help, it will be great. Thank
Oh, yes,
you.
sure.
Press the bell icon on YouTube